Welcome back, guys, to Pastor's Coffee, episode 50.
I
Brooks is
will.
stiff. Isn't that pretty wild? That is pretty
Pretty
wild.
wild. Pretty wild. I never thought we would make it to 50 episodes. Didn't
Not
know we
me.
were going to start a podcast 2 years ago.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's been a great time. But I just wanted to start out because you're probably looking at myself. I mean, of course, you're not looking at Brooks because I am the better looking one. But just wanted to point it out. But if you see right here, if you see this nice little emblem here, this is a pastor's coffee hat. And then if you look a little below right here, this is a pastor's coffee t-shirt. Okay.
Pretty wild.
And last week we said we did have a pretty big announcement, and I would say that a hat and a shirt are pretty big announcements. So we
Some say
officially
huge.
have we officially have some merch. But not only do we have the hat, not only do we have the shirt, and I'll get to we have another hat. Okay, if you're not about the fitted game like I am, we have a nice trucker hat that is gonna go to Brooks here. But we
Hmm.
have a trucker hat and we have a lanyard.
Look at that.
Okay, pretty fire. That's upside down.
That's legit. Yeah, that's look.
Pretty fire. But
Yeah.
probably my favorite merch item that we have, and the last one that we have, is this beautiful Pastor's Coffee mug.
Come on now. Come on.
If you're not picking this up, look at that.
That is
Pastor's
awesome.
Coffee. It had nothing in it, but we have it. Um, but that welcome to episode 50. We're going to be doing a giveaway, by the way, to 3 lucky winners for a hat, probably a trucker hat, a t-shirt, and then the mug and lanyard
Yes.
in the giveaway. So I've been excited. We've had this, and I just want to give a big shout out to Alex Icorn
Oh
because
man.
he's the man who put this all together,
Yes.
and he's doing a wonderful job. And so he's going to be helping us out in the future. But let us know if you want some merch, and we're going to be doing that giveaway. So make sure to share it. Make sure that you can get some merch. So, but anyways, I just want to ask you again, just real quick, how has your week been going?
Dude, I'm just so glad you asked. I it's been really good. It just joys me seeing the merch. We're gonna give um this is going to start to take off. So let's just be honest about it. So, um, but really, it's been a good week. Um, I don't know. You guys have been hit with snow the past couple of weeks. We got hit pretty good this week.
Yeah, I saw that.
Haven't been in the office a whole lot
Yeah.
because roads have been kind of
Hmm.
rough. So it's been just kind of a weird week trying to catch up today. We're filming this on a Friday, and I'm usually not even in here
Me neither.
on Friday, so it's kind of just a weird week. Um, but it's been good, and had some time where getting stuff ready for the baby and putting together just things at the house, and
Yeah.
um, so it's getting pretty exciting. But
Yeah.
how
Coming up.
how was your week? It is very soon.
My week's been going pretty good. I've been in the office. We didn't get snow, but it's been cold. It's been brutally
Oh
cold.
man,
I'm
yeah,
ready for some summer. I'm ready for
me
shorts,
too.
shorts and a t-shirt weather. Even though I still wear that during the winter. Um, but I am super excited for some summer weather. It's been a good week though so far. I've been able to get a lot of stuff done this week. I feel
Good,
like it's been a
good.
very productive week.
That's good. Yeah.
Um, and so I'm looking forward to Sunday. Hopefully there's no snow or anything, and we can have services. We had Awana last night, or not last night, the night before,
Feels
for the
like it
first
Thursday.
time
Yeah,
in a while. So
yeah, yeah.
just because of weather and everything, so that was nice. It's nice to get back to it, and um, got a winter retreat coming up that we'll be preparing for here next week. And yeah, I think
Be awesome.
this week's been going great. So, but what we wanted to do today is, as we mentioned last week, right? Yeah, last week
Mhm.
we wanted to do a little bit of a question and answer time. And so that's what we're going to do today. We have quite a few questions, a couple questions here, probably about 5 or 6, and we'll elaborate on them. But let's start out with the question from my wife. Okay. my
Okay.
wife, and figured that she would ask this question. Um, but what are your favorite things about your wives?
Oh man. Well, you go
So
first.
I'll go first.
That's your question. So
My question, my answers are. But honestly, I my favorite thing about Albina is, and it can be a love hate relationship with it, but she's a very passionate person.
yeah.
Okay, and when it comes down to it, even though she may be wrong sometimes,
Oh
um,
man. She
I'm
doesn't
just
watch
kidding.
it.
But she doesn't watch it, so that we're good. Um, she's a very passionate person, and the reason I do love that is because when something comes up in the Bible, she's very passionate about it, and she's passionate
Yeah.
about getting it right.
Yeah, it's great.
And
Yeah.
she's passionate about that in her life. She always is second guessing herself, and that
Yep.
can be a bad thing, but a good thing at the same time. That
Yeah. Yeah.
she's always making sure that she's on the right path, and is this what is the best thing for her relationship with God? And um, it took a while for me to even date her because she very passionate about her life and
Sure.
what's the right thing to do. And so I would say that's one of my favorite things. She is a very um, clean person. I don't have to do much of the cleaning. She
That's
does it
nice.
all pretty much. I cook and she cleans it up, so I can
There
do
you go.
whatever I need, and she cleans it up. There's honestly, yeah, everybody says this, but there's honestly many things that I mean, I married her, so that shows a lot. But I'll let you. Maybe I'll think of another one. You can go ahead and
Sure.
start.
That was awesome, man. I think the number one thing that just popped in my head first, and there's so many things obviously you could say, but I would say I appreciate her support more than anything.
Mm,
And I guess probably just because of um, just this year and everything, and already starting to see her, kind of turn into a mom before the baby
yeah.
gets here. It's just kind of neat to see. Um, but just her support, just in certain decisions. Obviously, she gives her input and really gives great input, a good perspective that, she's very detailed, and a lot of times she's like a perfectionist in a way that she wants it to be, a certain way, which if
Yeah.
it's good to me, then it's good, let's roll. So she gives
Hmm.
a different perspective that I really appreciate, but just support as far as, if I make a call on something that she has my back, and it's just really nice to know that I always have her support,
For sure.
um, just because it really is, especially in ministry,
Oh
you're
yeah.
having to make tough calls a lot of times, and to know that you have someone to count on that's going to be there with you no matter what is something that's just really special. So I would say that I really appreciate her sense of humor. Um, it's pretty similar to mine, and I think I've probably grown into that with
Yeah.
her. But it's yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to see just how she continues to grow when our little man gets here, and um, so yeah, that's what I would say. But
There you go. Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I think support is a thing that both of our wives are very great
yeah,
at because,
yeah,
well, one, they support us in ministry, and two, they support us in doing things that they like, going and seeing Hayden and letting us do things that we like to do,
that's
and they
true.
stay home.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that. Uh,
me too. Me too.
but next question. Next
Okay,
question, real quick.
that was a good first one.
And this is our second one. Is another kind of quality. What is the best quality about your co-host?
Oh
Meaning,
man,
I'll say your best quality about you. You say your best quality about me. Do you want to go first, or do I want
I'll
to go?
go first. I'll go first. I would say the thing I don't know if it's your best quality, but it's the thing I appreciate the most. Is and I'm making this so sappy. Normally it'd be a joke, but I mean this all serious. How dependable you are. Like as far as I always know that I can call you anytime or go to you about something, and it's not going to be judgmental. It's not going to be broadcasted everywhere. We just kind of have this want to keep things in confidence, and I've just always appreciated that. And I know that you're going to give me good sound, you know, just even if it's not advice, you just kind of you're a really good listener, and I can always depend on you for that. So that's the thing I appreciate most about us, and half of the reason why we're even doing this podcast, just an excuse to talk to each other. So
Exactly.
that's what I would say.
Yeah, I not gonna lie, I thought about the same thing as for you, but I'll think of something else real quick. I
Yeah,
think
you don't have to.
I think you are dependable, but I think to go along with that is you're very real. And I think that when I would go and talk to you, we've had many conversations in his room when he's in his yellow shorts and red Crocs and his white uh wife beater shirt, and I'd go in there and he would always know as well that something needs to be talked about. And that's usually when most of our best memories and best talks have happened. Um and that is the one thing I miss about college. But being real, you weren't beating around the bush when I probably shouldn't have been doing this, probably shouldn't have been doing this, and um, but yeah, it's yeah, I would say real is probably one of the best qualities about yourself. And
Yeah.
so, um, way to make us happy about each other.
Man, that was a good question. It was, yeah.
Um, and we would like to do these question and answers more often. I think these are great.
Yeah.
You could do is comment more.
Pretty simple solution there.
But this is a more spiritual question, and
Okay.
actually, before we get into the spiritual question, I'll ask about this question because it can be spiritual, but it's not. And this is from Kelly, from my mom's work. Appreciate you, Kelly, if you're listening to this
Thanks, Kelly.
episode. Since this is your 50th podcast, is it where you thought it would be at this
Ooh.
time?
Man. Well, first, I never thought we'd make it to 50 episodes, to be honest. I mean, just thinking about that is just hard to believe that we've been doing this for a year.
It's been well over a year, I think.
Yeah. We missed quite a few weeks just for different things.
Yeah.
But that is something that I'm just impressed in itself. Not necessarily the group, but just the fact that we've done this that many times. But I would say probably not if you would ask me when we started if we did 50 episodes. But I think it's been really cool and just the feedback that we have gotten from people who do watch it regularly, and I would like to think that it encourages the people who listen. So honestly, that's the point of starting this was to talk with you when we're in different states and keeping regular together, and to encourage one another in what we're doing. So that was the goal. But now that we have merch by 100, we've got some big plans.
We're gonna have no problem getting questions, that's for sure. Lord willing. So, but yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't have thought we would have had merch by episode 50, and we didn't do that. It was Alex, so appreciate you, Alex. Right. But yeah, I think when we start, this is what I expected, and we've continued this, and the goal was, yes, I wanted to talk to Brooks every week, and we just filmed it and posted it basically, but we were able to share the gospel and share Christ in the Bible, and we continued to do that, and I expected that, and I expect that to episode 100 and episode 1,000. Never know.
We'll see.
But the goal is to always share Christ in everything that we do, and whether that is talking about a Bible question or talking about sports or music or whatever we've talked about. I did expect that, but other than that, not to really have a podcast for 50 episodes.
Yeah, I didn't really have it.
But yeah, so that's kind of my input on that one. Now on to the spiritual questions here.
Okay.
We'll start with an easier one, and then we'll think about these other ones.
Okay.
What is your favorite Bible verse and why? Me or you
Um,
first?
I'll go first. I don't know if I've ever said this in here or not. I feel like we had to have at one point, but maybe we
Maybe.
didn't. Um, but yeah, John 16:33, and really it's just that whole passage um, leading up to the cross, and um, he's being betrayed, and the disciples are, you know, just in limbo, not really with much direction. This is the person that they've spent the last 3 years with and following. And he says that I've told you all these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will face trials, but take heart, I've overcome the world. And I found that verse um, by initially when I felt called to be a pastor, but then my senior year of high school when I was kind of struggling with direction and wondering where the Lord was in my life and um, going through that trial that is promised, and just having that promise that we can take heart because He's overcome the world. I'll never have another life verse. I mean, just the impact that one's had on me,
Yeah.
that'll just always be it. So that'd be mine.
Yeah.
Well, I know yours, but share it.
Mine is Philippians 3:7-8. And that again, we can talk about that whole story later at some point. But
I have that up right now.
do you really?
Yep.
Look at that. Philippians 3:7-8. Count everything as lost for the sake of Christ. And there obviously everything goes, there's more to it.
Yep.
And at the end of it, it says that everything else would be rubbish compared to knowing Christ. And that's
Yep.
paraphrasing there. But that's essentially the message there. And going through my senior year of high school, I guess you learn a lot of things in your senior year of high school. But just going through that and realizing, God is calling me to ministry, and going through some of the things I went through, and just pointed me to know that my ego isn't what it needs to be, and that nothing else in this world truly matters except knowing Christ as my Lord and Savior. So, and I remind the youth, we talked about it, I think this last week, but I remind the youth, and it's easier said than done, but at the end of the day, if my life turns out like Job is, Albina passes away, Leah, Liam, my family goes away. If I still have Christ, life is worth living.
Mm-hmm.
And, that verse speaks a lot into that. And that's been my life. I don't see it ever changing either. So,
Yeah.
and that's just Philippians 3:7-8, and everything else is rubbish compared to knowing Christ.
Yeah.
And so that's our favorite Bible verses and why. So, thank you, Kelly. Again, that was her question as well. Kelly with the great ones. She did also ask a question about why we're in pastoral ministry, but you can go check that out on an earlier podcast. Just wanted to let you know. I don't know what episode that is, but I know we have talked about that. I think it was towards the beginning. Also, just a real flashback. I go back and look at some of our first episodes, and man,
night and day.
We have grown.
Yes.
Even though we're not high tech and like traditional podcast out there, but we've grown as well. So, next one here. These are from my mother, actually. I have noticed in my own youth group, a lot of kids are there for friends and games, the fun stuff. How do you balance the fun with the importance of sharing God's word?
True.
I'll go ahead and start since I've read that question before, Brooks. I think we have talked about this a little bit, I think, at some point. But we'll share about it again. My goal with youth ministry, of course, is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with everybody. But something that's changed my life, and youth group was a big part of that, was that I can still enjoy the things of this life because God has given us these things to enjoy in this life, and still have a relationship with Him. And I think youth group kind of you can balance that. You can come and you have friends, and I mean that's fellowshipping. That's if body of believers talking, and having a game and playing a game and bonding together. But then when it's time to get down and learn about God's word, we can do that. And that's kind of been my goal with youth group, is that, every time I hang out with these kids, it doesn't have to be a devotional. It doesn't have to be a message. And that we can simply go to a restaurant and just talk about life, and
Right.
we just talk about it, because that's what Christianity is about. There's a time when the pastor gets up and shares a message, but where you really get down and dirty and get through the mud and through these times is talking to other believers and talking to God and seeing how we can get through this.
Yeah.
And you just don't always get that through a message.
Right.
It takes you elaborating on it and talking it out, and that's kind of my philosophy, is that I'm always open and down to do these fun things, and we can bond over it, and we can glorify God through these games, and we can glorify God through whatever we might do.
Right.
And so that's kind of my input on that one.
That's good. I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. You've kind of got to define your goal, I guess. When you answer that, like, is the goal to well, let me say it from this. Okay, so a Christian isn't arrived, obviously, on salvation. Okay, it has to be a continued process. So if we are so gospel centered in the fact of we're trying to evangelize and just get new people in the door and get them saved, if that's the focus, then you're missing out on the rest of their edification and sanctification. That has to be a part of it. But I think really the key to youth group, because it is such a different kind of sect of church ministry, is being able to keep them, to not only get them in the door, but then to keep them. And I think relationships and friends are what keeps them there. A church, your everyday churchgoer is going to be very attracted to the pastor or the preacher. If they're a good preacher, they'll come back. Youth group is a little bit different. They're going to come back because of their friends a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some really faithful kids not come back to youth group because they don't have friends. So if your goal is to grow them spiritually and for them to continue in edification, you have to create an environment that is fun and enjoyable and allows people to build relationships. But then they have to know when they get there, after the fun settles, and the message can be fun, but that the focus is the message. So I think the balance is games and fun have to be there. That's what youth group is made of. That's what keeps them there. But then the message has to be so prepared to where when they are ready to settle down, that you are feeding them to be able to be prepared. I mean, you graduate high school and you're an everyday churchgoer now. Unless you have a young adult group at your church, I mean, you're in the congregation at that point. Yeah. So you have to be able to prepare them for what's next while also giving them an opportunity to build relationships. So that is the balance, and it is really tough to do it, but that is it.
I agree. I think that was great. Beautifully said.
Thanks.
That was the real side,
That's right.
But here we are, last question. I forget who this one was by, so I apologize. Since being a youth pastor, what has been your biggest challenge?
Oh man.
I'll go ahead since you haven't read that one either. My biggest challenge, I think, just off the top of my head, and this is just for me personally, I had to get used to what Cumberland's about, and like just how people run over here, because it's very different than what I've been used to.
Sure.
People are very homebody here, where they don't like really going places, and if you can stay at home, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some of that in me. There's some of that in me.
People,
and but I also am married to Albina, who does not like to stay home, and she would rather travel. And get everywhere. Yeah. And we've traveled to Wisconsin many times, and Wisconsin will be still continued to travel to many times.
Yeah.
I never thought that a 10-hour trip would become the norm. So,
That's tough.
um, but which was needed for me. I think it's great to be a homebody at some time, but you got
Yeah.
to get out of your comfort zone and get out
Oh,
in the
for sure.
world,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, and I think that's really been because Cumberland is just a special breed. If you live in Cumberland, you know about Cumberland. I'm glad that I live on the outskirts of Cumberland. That's all I'll say about that. And I think most people will agree with me there. But I think I think just with being a pastor, I didn't know what being a pastor truly looked like until I got here and actually started doing it too.
Sure.
This is my
Yeah.
first pastoral like full-time true job,
Mm.
and it's been a challenge in itself, but I think that I've grown into it, and this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I've always said that, but I truly can say that now, and whether that's here or I pray that it's here, but
Sure.
if the Lord has me somewhere else, if the Lord wants to push me to not be a pastor, at the end of the day, whatever God tells me to go, I'll go. And
Yeah.
but I think that would be my biggest challenge is being here. And the church has been great in it, and it's not really been that much of a challenge to
Yeah.
where like I actually am burdened with it. But like it's. I think you can say that really with anywhere that you go.
Sure.
But just Cumberland and just being so close to home, I didn't think of it being too much different. But they're different over here in Cumberland, Maryland.
My biggest challenge, I don't think I can really share. Um, at this time, you probably know it. But I would say just overall, just big picture. Um, I guess just balancing ministry and the rest of your life. I guess would be the biggest challenge.
Hmm.
Um, because I think you can really make the mistake of because it is supposed to be God first, um, then family. But I think far too often we make the mistake of putting God and ministry as the same thing, and they're not.
Yeah.
You know, this is still my job. Okay. Now, ministry, every believer is called to ministry.
Hmm.
Okay. So that is all aspects of your life. We are supposed to take the gospel, go and tell, teach,
Yeah.
disciple, baptize. That's everyone. Um, so that is not to say my service to the Lord is my job, absolutely. But I think finding the balance of, okay, my devotionals and my personal walk with the Lord has to come first, then my family, and then the ministry is right after that. And I think a lot of times we jumble that up, and that's been kind of a challenge because I struggle with saying no a lot of times. I'm not very good at saying no. If someone, asks for something, and even as I say that, I don't know what I should have said no to at different times. You want
Yeah.
to help out and do things, but you start to sacrifice some other areas of your life that really need attention. And
Yeah.
um, I want to always be cognizant of that I'm thinking of, okay, what really is my priorities, because things can get so busy, life can get so busy, and that's not just ministry, that's life period.
Yeah.
Priorities can get really blurry. um, so I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge, is just making sure that I'm spending enough time, obviously with my wife, but with the Lord, and alone time, not just preparation and my service to Him. You can be serving Him so much that you're never even talking to Him or communicating with Him,
For
and
sure.
and then in turn, that's not even really serving Him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty of it. So
For sure. I mean, I can agree with that too.
yeah,
You know, and I think it's easier to put your family over ministry, but it's hard to put God over ministry.
it
And I
is.
think
It is.
and I
They're
think
not the
that's
same.
not
Yeah,
something I've expected as well. You
yeah,
know, because it's easy, to say I gotta go home.
hmm
And it's
yeah,
easy to say that, but it's harder to get up when you know you're about to go to the office and look at the Bible, to
Right.
get up at your own house and
Right.
do your stuff there, or I tend to do it in here because that's just kind of what I do. But
Sure.
I think it's important to probably set it aside and to say this is for me and God. This
Yeah.
isn't for a lesson. This isn't for me to share, which eventually it can be shared. But
Sure.
this is for me to grow in my walk with Christ, so that I can
Mhm.
serve my family better and then serve my ministry better.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I appreciate all those questions. Do you have anything you wanted to add to
I
anything,
think so.
any of those? Okay. Well, that'll wrap it up. Shorter
Those were really
episode
good.
today.
Those were really good.
Those are great questions. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. You can send us questions at any point. Doesn't have to be just 50th episode questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be at any time. And a reminder, real quick, we got merch. You can look for that giveaway coming out hopefully this evening, and we'll get it all set up. And yeah, so
Exciting.
follow. I'm excited for it. We'll figure out a way that you can actually buy the merch as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk to our merch director, Alex Eichhorn, and get him behind that. But yeah, so I appreciate all of you and thankful that we can do this 50 times at least. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, we hopefully we'll be back next week, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. So we'll see you guys next week.
See you all.